I never worry about the regulations.
Never.
Why not? Because I know I'm a good boy, and the government loves me because I am helping them to create a business.
Jack, are you there? Jack? Doesn't look as though he's inside.
He may be not showing up, but he's not missing. He hasn't been captured. He hasn't been taken.
Over 2 decades ago, Jack Ma co-founded Alibaba. Today, it's China's e-commerce giant and one of the biggest companies in the world. But recently, Ma and his tech empire have been in trouble. In April, Alibaba was fined a record $2.8 billion for monopolistic conduct. Its affiliate Ant Group, which Ma holds a controlling stake in, was ordered to overhaul its business after the abrupt suspension of its IPO in November 2020.
This was looking like a fairy tale listing for Ant Group, and there's now been a significant twist.
And since then, Ma has laid low. But Alibaba and Ant are not the only tech firms in the sights of Chinese regulators. So, what does the future hold for China's tech giants? It's become the stuff of legend. In 1995, during a trip to the US, the then English teacher Jack Ma had his first encounter with the internet at a friend's place in Seattle.
I searched the first word beer. I don't know why, because it's easy to spell, baby. And I see beers from Germany, beers from USA, beers from Japan, but there's no beer from China.
Back home, he started China Pages, a Yellow Pages-like website, but it didn't take off. By 1999, the internet stock boom had gripped Wall Street, and back in his Hangzhou apartment, Ma decided to try again. With his wife and a small group of friends, Ma set up Alibaba, a site that allowed businesses to sell stuff to each other. In the same year, a newly established company, Tencent, released its first product, OICQ, an internet messaging service. Tencent and Alibaba's apps are used by a combined 1 billion people. Each company has a market cap over $500 billion US, and they've poured billions into Chinese tech startups. For over a decade, the Chinese government allowed the internet sector to grow with little oversight, as it wasn't yet considered an essential industry. Beijing also hoped that expansion of these companies could spur China's economy.
China putting the brakes on the world's biggest IPO. Ant Group's listing in both Shanghai and Hong Kong have been suspended.
This is really a stunning turn of events, and as Heidi noted in the previous segment,
it was the most anticipated initial public offering on record, and the money was piling up to go into it. So in that essence alone, it was a dramatic about-face from regulators because it had already been given the go-ahead by securities regulators. And in the 11th hour, it was pulled. This was going to be a $30+ billion IPO, but it all came apart after this speech, of course, in Shanghai by Jack Ma, where he criticized the regulatory environment.
好的创新不怕监管，但是怕昨天的方式去监管。我们不能用管理。
He criticized state banks for operating like pawn shops, and he didn't read the room very well because the audience at the Shanghai Bund Conference was full of government officials. They did not take kindly to this.
Ant is China's largest fintech company, created in 2004 as a payment service to facilitate transactions to Alibaba. The company has expanded its business into wealth management, credit lending, and insurance. In the year to June 2020, it managed to process $17 trillion worth of payments, and at one point it had the largest money market fund in the world. Just a day before Ant's IPO suspension, regulators released strict draft rules for online microlenders that would require Ant to provide at least 30% of the funding for loans it underwrites for banks and other financial institutions. That evening, Jack Ma was summoned by regulators for a meeting. After Ant's IPO suspension, the company was ordered to overhaul its business. turning it into a financial holding company with similar regulations to a bank. Regulators also launched an anti-monopoly investigation into Alibaba. Since the collapse of Ant's IPO, Ma, the face of China's new economy, and the showman who always takes center stage, vanished.
Jack? Are you there? Jack? It doesn't look as though on the inside.
He may be not showing up, but he's not missing. He hasn't been captured. He hasn't been taken.
Like many entrepreneurs in China, Ma had been walking a tightrope, balancing sometimes conflicting demands from Beijing and foreign investors who are eager to see growth.
It wasn't until earlier this year, 2021, that Jack Ma reappeared. He was talking about philanthropy, and the tone in which he gave his speech was so much more modest and humble compared with his speech in October.
China's government has really upped its game. You can no longer just bash government in the way that he did. So maybe Jack just didn't realize that the game had changed.
Just 5 months since the sudden collapse of Ant's IPO, regulators hit Alibaba with a record fine for monopolistic conduct. Ant is now in the process of an overhaul. The Chinese government has also launched an investigation into suspected monopolistic practices by food delivery behemoth Meituan. 32 other tech firms like Tencent and TikTok owner ByteDance have been ordered to rectify anti-competitive behavior.
At the end of the day, the Chinese government has the final say, and bend the knee or get broken.